Oh, hey, good morning, everybody. Oh, wait, am I supposed to say, good morning, Gardenia? Comment Jim Freedom, producing today's special Friday show full of lots of good news. I'm just here, packing my bong for Friday morning. In case you're wondering, it's 37-ish degrees here. Just got above freezing, was down to 21 degrees last night. And because I forgot to get propane. We are out of heat in the studio at the moment, so we got another hoodie and hat, and this time extra warm jacket edition of Adam versus the Man. I hope you enjoy my appearance today, and maybe take a tug with me and Jim as we get into today's good news. Special Good News Friday episode. Lots of good stuff coming today. Very excited about today's show. But of course, first, that was a test, Jim. You have the music ready? All right.
That's a separate program on CJ's computer. I don't have access to the smoke weed all day sound bites. Right. So sorry about that.
Fucking sing it, Jim. Well, I'm smoking
weed every day.
There you go. All right, so should we do it one more time? Just to start the show properly.
Smoke weed every day. No. Smoke weed every day. I don't have me saying shit.
All right,
ladies and gentlemen, comment smoke, obviously, too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, comment Jim Freedom on the board today. All right. Quick promos out of the way. You want to support the show? Go to AdamVersusTheMan.com. Find us on Patreon, patreon.com/AdamVersusTheMan, where $10 a month gets you special exclusive access to the Producers Club. I actually got some really good, exciting ideas on that now that we've got Mrs. Evans. Maria is on the job now, getting our Patreon, and I believe, I think focusing on Patreon and Telegram, getting those really spun up. And I like that model, for this show, man, because fuck YouTube. God damn it. Like, watch yesterday's show. No, we can't just talk. No, you can't just talk on the internet anymore. No, freedom of speech. Kind of an illusion. If you can be shadow banned the way that we are, if they can manipulate the conversation the way that they do, you can't say that we have a free and open internet, despite the lies, the mythology. It is quite clear that every story about censorship on the internet, one after another, it has destroyed this idea that the internet is a free and open space like it used to be. And I think it will be again. I don't know if the history of the internet will be written this way, but there was certainly an interesting arc of development where this new technology came about, and there was a place of freedom. There was a place without government, that is, without coercion, without the threat of violence. There was a violence-free space to communicate, to create the hive mind of humanity. And then government stepped in and corporatism stepped in. And I don't want to say it was ever perfect or pure or have any kind of delusions like that. But now you can't do business on the internet in the way that you want without government stepping in and saying, no, you can't do it like that. Without Amazon Web Services shutting you down if you're a parlor. Without your channel getting deleted off of YouTube or shadow banned on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And we have to break free. And this is good news. Don't worry. I'm not going to do this for the first half hour of the show again. That was yesterday's show. Go back and watch. Great guest too yesterday with Augie Noss. Man, mind-blowing shit. Really. And Augie Noss does go into some realms that sound out there, but when you stop and take the time to understand the language he's using, like that your brain is he says your brain is a computer simulation. You go, it can't be. I know what those words mean. When you stop and go, wait, my brain is a computer. It computes things. It creates it creates an assimilation of ideas and a model of the universe in our heads. Oh yeah, we get to synthesize. You got to make your own world, man. That's it. It's all in your head. It's all in your head. It's all in your head. You do what you want with that, and what Augie, really inspired me to do with that is explore, a lot of the positive applications of that. And that is kind of a theme for today's good news in everything, cutting edge of good news with this episode. And we have the first, so we have 5 sections to do today. I guess I should finish the promos before I get to that, right, Jim? So AdamVersusTheMan.com, Patreon.com/AdamVersusTheMan. You go to that website, AdamVersusTheMan.com. You can also, oh man, my fingers all messed up. I look at my hand on screen going, man, I gotta stop being so mean to my hands. I got cat claw marks and bites and things, some of a scar from getting slammed in a door yesterday, and I got a chainsaw wound on one finger. Anyway, I'll stop. But yeah, patreon.com/AdamVersusTheMan, $10 a month gets you a producer club membership. You can also support the show by checking out the merch at AdamVersusTheMan.com. And then Cigar Federation, our affiliates, cigarfederation.com, where promo code ADAM10 gets you 10% off. And follow us at the Garden of Freedom, where you can see everything that we've got going on here in Gardenia and the Gardenia Sovereignty Project. And really excited now to see that that this project has grown. We got someone taking on our website and basic administrative organization. I might have a prime minister of Gardenia stepping into that role as we speak. Comment, Jim Freedom. Get your butt up on screen here. I've been going for 7 minutes. Are there any worthwhile comments at this point? We're going to take a lot. We're going to take some calls. You got that StreamYard link down in the comments?
Yeah, I'll put the StreamYard link right now in the comments right now. So that
all right.
Comment that just popped up, that's your link. I want to explain something really quick. I was trying to do the promos right then, but I don't know if it's because we have so many links logged up and my computer's not good enough, but it kept saying unable to capture your screen, unable to share your screen. It wasn't letting me share the promos. Okay, I was able to get Patreon there once, but it kept, I don't know.
What's the classic Scotty from Star Trek line at that point? That's all she's got, Captain. Something like that. She can't take it anymore. We've got too much good news today. Too many.
Give her all she's got, Captain. She can't.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I'm giving her all she's got, Captain.
Yeah, all so right. I think I'm maxed out, so I'll do my best here. But as soon as we start getting through the blocks, I'm going to start closing tabs after we're done covering them. So hopefully, as it goes on, it'll be more fluid and
yes.
With me. Well, as far as go ahead.
As long as we get there are a lot of these stories are words. They're not like you, but as long as by the end we got some there's some really cool visual stuff. We got volcanoes. We got bisexual transsexual something birds. We got a yellow penguin. We got we got robot how to disable robot police dogs. That's in today's show too. All right, so comments.
How to disable robot police dogs. That's going to be interesting. Well, just for pointing this out, Ray Ancap was first today. I don't think he's ever won that, but he did today. So congratulations. Hiroshima says, yo. I was trying to look in my pictures here because you brought that up, the transsexual birds. I took a picture the other day at a gas station because somebody put a sticker on the gas pump that said birds aren't real. That's all it said. It just said birds aren't real. I was like, holy shit, that's right.
Is there something deeper to that meme that I missed? Birds aren't real. Like, I mean, I thought it was just sort of like a clever inside joke on the internet. Birds aren't real. Like, let's deny the denial of the existence of birds. It's kind of like, let's make fun of conspiracy theorists, right? But then it was like reclaimed as so over the top and just right. But is there other than those sort of like obvious, hey, it's art, you can interpret it. When you say birds aren't real, is there something else to that I'm missing?
I'm not sure. Not that I know of. Maybe somebody in the comments can enlighten us to that if there is something.
Yeah, and top call or comment today, we'll see. But it's got to be good news. It's been we need to get this is sort of like from Augie Noss that like thinking about meditation discipline. one of the things, so we with the show, I take on a journalistic responsibility of making sure that if you give me 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, you're going to know what's going on. Like today, I'll tell you real quick. There's airstrikes in Syria, and that's it. That's all that's it. We'll get to that on Monday. There's not like unless it's urgent, and that's all you need to know. Like, do you need to know? Does it affect your life? Are you gonna do something different? Like, if you're an anti-war activist and you're like, I need something, some anti-war activism this weekend. I want to jump on this. Get into it. Other than that, details of the war in Syria aren't going to affect your life. Taking 2 hours with me right now to look at all the good news in the world, that's going to change your life. That's going to reprogram your brain to have a more positive outlook. That's going to put you a step ahead of every one of these mainstream media zombies who thinks that the world is a horrific, evil place and the sky is falling, and they should be grateful that the government just lets them survive. This is absolutely critical to a healthy worldview and understanding.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. As far as comments go, we were talking about the guest yesterday. I think people liked that. Moose Girl said, I thought he was really cool.
Yeah.
Augie, or however you spell his name. Craig said, not going to lie, that guy lost me yesterday.
Yeah, no, there were, well, that's why, I spoke a little bit more than I do in a lot of interviews, not in a conversational or development way, but in summarizing and making sure that I'm understanding and rephrasing and synthesizing that. And I think I did a pretty good job, but I understand a lot of those concepts are like, you go, wait, what's the implication for me? And then this can't make sense. And then I have to make sense of this. And it's easy to get lost. That's an interview worth watching twice.
Yeah, for sure. 1054 says Augie is like Deepak Chopra that actually backs up his words. Some of it was a little far-fetched, but still interesting.
Well said. Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else? So top comment or call with good news and positive outlook. It's Friday.
I haven't even read this whole thing, but it says about the birds. It says, maybe birds aren't real. I have never seen more than 3 or 4 robins together in a yard during this cold freeze. I have had over 200 in my yard scrounging for food.
Scrounging.
Well, how could they not be real if you... Oh, yeah, scrounging, scourging.
They're real, but they're all government robots. They're all drones.
They're spy drones. That's what Craig said. The birds are government spy drones. Yeah.
Speaking of which, one story that we took out today was that in Egypt, 2 stories actually. Someone synthesized pictures of Egyptians' faces. It happens, whatever. But there was a bird in a mural that they were able to figure out was an extinct bird. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Birds were a thing. Even government drones were a thing even in Egypt because I'm not saying aliens, but aliens. We got a good UFO block today too with the cylindrical object sighted by seen on an American Airlines flight.
By the FBI or something. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that for sure.
Sweet. Sounds fun. Yeah, that's it. Let's get to it.
Alrighty then. Our first story is from Study Finds, and this goes along with our, this is our first block, human optimization, and we have a lot of cool stuff here that is about really just understanding how the mind works. The first one here is You But Better. Scientists designing method to remove fear, boost confidence via brain stimulation. Yeah, this hacking the brain, realizing that the potential of the human mind is an amazing luxury that we have. We are really on the cutting edge of this because we stepping back historically, like let's appreciate where we are and how far we've come. We've gone from a state of nature where like survival and reproduction was it. We're still animals driven by that. But now applying the human consciousness to make the human mind better. So if modern science conceived of a way to pluck unwanted fears, thoughts, and preferences from your mind, is that something that you would be interested in? It sounds impossible, but a new study on non-conscious brain stimulation may just make it a reality via a combination of artificial intelligence and brain scanning technology. Scientists in Japan say they've discovered avenues to remove specific fears, boost confidence, and even alter individual preferences. Yeah, they believe that in the future, these techniques may lead to new treatments for patients dealing with issues like PTSD or generalized anxiety disorder. All of this is incredibly promising, but researchers admit they haven't perfected their approach yet. Just just yet. While the treatment they developed has proven effective with many, some individuals haven't seen the same benefits. Crowdsourcing research on the brain. So there's a bit about the development here. What they're calling this is decoded neurofeedback. Yeah. Now, this is sort of, I mean, this is really like cutting edge, not in application yet, but that's what's on the horizon. That's what we have to look forward to. So now to maybe some more practical, what can you do to retrain your brain to be more conscientious today? We're going to start with an article from Gallup. Yeah, the survey people, news.gallup.com. U.S. satisfaction improved after recent decline. Now, there's really just one takeaway from this, and it's all we have to do is cover the bullet points. 27% of U.S. adults are satisfied, up from 11% in January. Now, in January, remember we were waiting for the Biden inauguration, watching for Trump's last desperate plays to play out, and now we're and wondering what Biden was going to do with COVID, et cetera, et cetera. And here's the thing. Satisfaction among Democrats surges 40 percentage points. Yeah. What does it tell you? Think about that for a minute. It's Democrats whose satisfaction goes. We look at America as a whole and go, oh, satisfaction is up. Because your flavor of statism is what we're, or your flavor of statist propaganda, maybe more accurately, is what we're getting from the federal government now. Now you're more satisfied. Trump's out of office. Now you are allowing your satisfaction to depend on such external events as who's in the White House, not how their policy is affecting you, but it's satisfaction. So the first thing, I mean, the lesson here I would point out is get to that state of healthy detachment. Don't watch the mainstream media. Don't fall for the political emotional manipulation, because you will be less satisfied if you do. Our next headline related to this, another similar sort of warning message, comes from the Daily Mail. Social media users who are desperate for likes, quote, have thinking patterns similar to lab rats seeking food, study claims. You know, I've you know, as a public figure, as an activist, as a pundit, I have had my own struggles with social media, as it has been possibly my most effective tool as an activist. And I have fallen for this. I took a year completely off of Facebook, although I'm still sort of off of Facebook. And we broadcast this show there as a backup channel in case you know, we have an issue with YouTube again. But there, I remember, I think what I've accomplished, if I could step back over the last few years, is a healthy detachment from that social media, you know, psychological gratification feedback loop of seeking likes. You know, experts from the US and Europe studied some 1 million social media posts. They found that people tend to space their posts to maximize likes and response. This involves posting more on average when you get more likes and vice versa. Such behavior is similar to how lab test animals try to maximize food rewards. The findings could lead to new ways to address unhealthy online engagement. Now, right now, I could talk about the bigger problems with this, with social media, with Facebook psychologically engineering their website to be addictive, to create you know, dopamine responses and addiction and anxiety responses to keep you doom scrolling on your feed. And I just want to sort of end this very abbreviated rant by saying that I think the primary reasons, well, let me step back. So all human beings, as social creatures, have programming that makes us want to be liked, that makes us want social gratification, to seek comfort in that, to seek security and a network of fellow humans who like us. And when that instinct is now expressed through social media in a very large way, the nature of those mediums, the actual mechanisms of Twitter and Facebook and the algorithms themselves are going to affect how that instinct is expressed. And it's going to, so that instinct is expressed in a lot of unhealthy ways already, right? You know, people who are submissive in unhealthy ways, people who kiss ass excessively, you know, things like that. People who do things just to be liked. I mean, you see this in like regular social environments, even when people don't stare at their phones the whole time. And you take that and you put it on the internet, that unhealthiness is amplified in a lot of ways by the deliberate manipulation of social media platforms. So this is something that at a deeper level, we should all be conscientious of, right? How are we interacting with the world, with fellow human beings, with our communities to, in a healthy way, develop a network, a support structure, a personal community around us, that sort of thing. And then how are we doing that in an unhealthy way? And then how are we doing it online in an unhealthy way? And I would really encourage everybody to stop and think about this. You know, are you like a lab rat seeking food? Stop and think for a minute about your own social media engagement and how much of it is a perversion or an unhealthy expression or an unhealthy mentality that you've adopted in order to seek that gratification online. And there's great progress for humanity with social media, with the internet, obviously. But we are experiencing this one particular setback right now with social media, where there's this explosion of unhealthy validation seeking behavior. And that could be used, that time spent on that could be used in so many better ways, so many healthier ways. So understanding this, being able to point this out now, finally, this is nothing new, gives us the opportunity to at least identify problems with the ways that we are using our brains in order to optimize the value of life and intelligence. So our next story gets into a little more high-tech, perhaps, version of that. NewAtlas.com. Scientists establish freaky two-way communication with lucid dreamers. Yeah, 4 independent experiments across the globe have found, by the way, don't forget the Flat Earth Society has members all around the globe, have found that it's possible to establish two-way communications with people in the weird hallucinatory state of lucid dreaming, opening up a new field of real-time interactive dreaming research. Yeah, this is a big deal for scientists trying to work out what the heck is going on as we sleep, because typically they've had to rely on the fragmented, fading scraps of memory people have once they've woken up. Our experimental goal is akin to finding a way to talk with an astronaut who's on another world. It's the introduction of a combined study between 4 separate groups in France, Germany, the Netherlands, and the US. Each group set out to test its own techniques on how to interview people without waking them up, using the bizarre phenomenon of lucid dreaming as a doorway into the dream world. During regular dreams, we typically have no idea that we're dreaming, simply accepting the strange situations we're placed in without critical judgment. Lucid dreaming, a notoriously rare phenomenon, is a state where the sleeper is aware that they're dreaming and sometimes capable of steering their experience. The researchers took one group of experienced lucid dreamers, another of regular folk that they had trained in the art of lucid dreaming, and one patient with narcolepsy who frequently drifted in and out of lucid dream states, and found they were able to have two-way exchanges with members of all 3 groups. Just stepping back for a second, like the significance of this, you spend a third of your life asleep if you do a good job of it, right? And you don't, it's sort of a compartmentalized conscientious or conscious state that we don't, really get to access. The potential, you're getting like, if we could tap that somehow, and what they're looking at here is improving, the effectiveness of your conscious mind, essentially, right? Like it's not. And by the way, this article has really cool charts about REM sleep and frequencies in your brain, but the ability now to interact with that time that your brain is asleep opens some incredible doors, the doors of perception, and ways to reprogram your brain. The French team from Sorbonne University, working with the narcoleptic subject, was able to ask verbal yes/no questions. The subject answered yes by contracting his zygomatic muscles, which draw the sides of the mouth up and out like a broad smile, and no by contracting his corrugator muscles, the ones we use to furrow our eyebrows. So yes, no, yes, no. So yeah, okay. Another subject was asking how many times the researcher was tapping his right hand across 158 attempts to communicate with lucid dreamers across all teams. The researchers got correct responses 18.4% of the time, incorrect 3.2%, inconclusive 17.7%, and no response 60.1%. So after the subjects woke up, they were interviewed about what had just happened, and most of the time they remembered the communications. Some said the questions came through as if they were from outside the dream or superimposed over it. Quote, I was at a party with friends, said one subject, your voice was coming from the outside, just like a narrator of a movie. During the finger tapping, said another subject with a particularly vivid inner life, quote, I was fighting against goblins. I remember being surprised that I was able to do many things at the same time as the task. Yeah. This is pretty incredible. And so we are just starting to explore this. But the article concludes, where to from here? The researchers say this interactive dreaming research should open up a whole bunch of new research avenues, including testing out the ability to steer the content of somebody's dream from the outside. This might include dreams curated in accordance with an individual's objectives, such as to practice musical or athletic skill, or therapeutic dreams to lessen the impact of emotional trauma with real-time feedback from the subject. There could also be sessions designed for problem solving, using the dream state as a different perspective on problems, or for interactive, quote, moonshot sessions, attempting to combine the creative advantages of dreaming with the logical advantages of wake. Artists and writers say the research might also gain inspiration from the researchers might also gain inspiration from sleep communication. The paper is available free in Current Biology, and if you want to, again, links in the notes for all of this. This would be if you want to get into lucid dreaming, this would be a cool place to start to motivate you to see some of the potential of this. But yeah, imagine that. Just think about this for a second. You spent a third of your life asleep, and your brain does that for a lot of reasons. Of course, physiologically, biologically, we understand the primary reason is to rest your body and to reset and reset your brain, and a lot of it is cleaning out material, not information, but like chemicals from your brain, actually refreshing it as you sleep. That's why if you don't sleep well, your brain doesn't function as well. And imagine like that state that we know is a uniquely creative information processing state as well that happens while we're asleep. Imagine being able to really unleash the potential of that, not just, hey, my brain is 50% more functional because now it's working it's 24 hours a day instead of 16 hours a day. Obviously, it's not as simple as that. But combining that creative state of sleep with the logical power or the memory retention ability of the waking state, I mean, it's not a simple 50% increase. It's a potential synthesis of mental functions that is already unlocking things that we never thought possible and only are now starting to understand. So, next story here, a little variation from this, but something that shows the way for perhaps the electrification of our bodies with so many implants, artificial limbs. Who knows? Maybe we have a biological body core. We can have an exoskeleton that is able to run on the electricity generated from your body. Scientists just figured out how to turn your body into a battery, is the headline. In the near future, pacemakers could run on body heat batteries. So there's the first application. Hey, we've already got the machines in our bodies that need batteries, and in the future might not need them. These devices could replace watch batteries and other power sources for wearables. The greater the temperature difference from inside to outside, the more power. Yeah. A tiny new gadget could turn your body's electricity into a battery, meaning pacemakers, drug delivery pumps, and other implantable medical devices could run on a new kind of renewable energy. And obviously, this is looking at the immediate applications with current technology, right? Implantable medical devices. And I'm already like, you see what Elon Musk is trying to put in your brain? Yeah, like that thing, and the stuff we talked about earlier about mental stimulation in your brain. It might be controlled by something inside your body, completely self-contained. And one of the things that's exciting about this for me as a libertarian, oh yeah, how long would it? Only 30 minutes into the show, and I said as a libertarian. But as a libertarian who looks at these technologies with an appropriate fear of them falling into the wrong hands, or even just existing today in the world controlled by government, they could be hacked, that your privacy isn't protected with these. But if you could have it completely self-contained, you don't need an external power source. That's one greater step to autonomy. And I'm not thinking about implantable medical devices like we have today. I'm thinking about the ones that when you can power them like this, they now become optimization devices, new devices, things that we can't even imagine today, and I sort of jump ahead to the whole, well, why not just upload your consciousness into a computer and put it in a robot and then stomp all over the world and never have to sleep again or eat or blah, 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 right? Have a little solar panel on the top of your head. It's not a bald spot. It's a solar panel for a sex machine. And so if you can get to that state, why worry about these intermediaries? But it's going to be, obviously, that's a long ways off. So in the meantime, what can we do? All right. You can have a robot arm powered by the heat in your body. You could be like, I think Doc Octopus, from Spider-Man. He had basically, well, it was what later was implanted. It was in his spine, and he had the arms coming off of it. Imagine if you just had a backpack you could strap on or strap into that from your body heat was maybe your car, maybe a self-flying car is you sit in it and it's powered by your body heat. Maybe you don't need the car because you have a little backpack and it just turns into a quadcopter and just picks you up and floats you around, right? I mean, like that's before we get to being robots. There's a lot of there's some fun intermediary steps, right? The wearable, and Jim had that little thing on screen. It's amazing how small it is, right? A thermoelectric generator directly turns your body's heat into electrical energy, while the University of Colorado Boulder scientists behind the stretchable device tested their TEG in the form of a small ring. The tiny generator could theoretically be the size of a watch or full sleeve, depending on how much power you want to generate. Or it could be your clothes. I mean, they're able to do this in a practical way for something that fits on your finger. How much energy are they going to be generating when it's a ring that goes around your torso? Here's how it works. First, you put on the wearable, just make sure it comes into contact with your skin. Flexible, malleable circuitry inside the device then converts your body heat into electricity. Meanwhile, a special material embedded inside the gadget heals and reconfigures itself to keep from breaking as you move. Yeah, the TEG is stretchy and resilient, just like your skin. This means you can comfortably wear it in all kinds of conditions without beating it up. The scientists say in their study, which appears in Science Advances, as the part of the gadget that touches your skin turns your warmth into energy, it works overtime by guzzling up solar energy from its cold side, which faces away from your skin. So this is, really cutting edge stuff. That's where this is going. Now, in human optimization, we are going to take a minute here to get outside of technology and look into just a little bit of awareness raising and increasing consciousness. Reuters has this story, Our Stories Don't Get Told. Only now, a sex workers podcast aims to change that. The podcast, Sex Workers Guide to the Galaxy, offers guests in the industry a stage to share their experiences free of sanction and in their own words. Parker Westwood is trying to bring sex work out of the shadows with a new podcast that lays bare her industry, asking dancers, dominatrix, I guess that's a plural when you say it, dominatrices, weird, Reuters. You would say dominatrixes, right? And strippers, what it's like to swap sex services for money. In a series of intimate interviews, Westwood delves deep and shatters taboos to unveil the humans in her mostly hidden world. From life in lockdown, stripping for a living, to sex with a disability, the host and her guests simply tell it like it is. So, getting real about sex. still something, we have to process in all of this. Now, to COVID for a second here, with school shutdowns for a long time, really from the beginning of this, I've said that one of the silver linings of the whole COVID crisis and the schools being shut down is that suddenly everyone is forced by circumstance to homeschool. Everybody's a homeschooler all of a sudden, right? Can't send your kids to school, even if they're doing remote learning by plugging into the government system through a government issued iPad or whatever it is. There are a lot of people who have been enlightened by this experience, who have taken this challenge as an opportunity and discovered a better way to educate their kids compared to trusting their minds to government. And now, so we have this story from News Times, Greenwich News Times, and this is a little bit. This is from the Washington Post, from newstimes.com. And there seems to be some tragedy in this story, right? Kids missing, holy crap, but they're missing from government schools. Could be a good thing, right? Detroit, Kenneth Chapman Sr. was hopeful as he navigated a hulking Detroit public schools van down the street, pulling up to a brick home. Out front, there were signs of the girl he was looking for lived inside. Amid the discarded plastic cups in the yard, there was a ball, and on the porch, a small bike, painted fluorescent pink. Normally, when I get to the house and see toys or bikes, I think, okay, someone's going to be here. But when he knocked, no one appeared. This was one of the 24 stops Chapman, who works in the school system's family and community engagement office, would make, looking on this chilly day in late October for students who had been missing classes. Oh my gosh, students are missing classes. Some of the children on the list had worrisome numbers of absences this early on in the school year, but there were 3,000 students the district could not account for at all. A worrisome number of absences? You mean they weren't sitting still in cemetery row seating to be taught how to think by government bureaucrats? Oh my gosh. School districts across the country that closed buildings in mid-March in response to the coronavirus pandemic handled the transition to remote learning with varying levels of success. During the disruption, schools lost track of students. Many students who were present in the classroom in early March could not be found online, and others who showed up in the spring haven't been seen since. And one of the things about homeschooling and unschooling, homeschooling has a terrible reputation because so far in recent American history, the American parents who have had the most incentive to get their kids out of government schools were ones who wanted particularly regressive, destructive, very limiting, superstition-based religious educations as opposed to government education where they might learn about evolution. And so I try not to use the term homeschooling, but homeschooling is kind of a commonly understood umbrella term that for many includes unschooling. But unschooling is sort of really what I'm about because it is a reflection of libertarianism. It is an application of ethical principles to education. What you find is that when you don't force kids to do shit, they learn better. When you don't, put a gun to their head or threaten them with consequences. And yes, I know the U.S. government doesn't literally have to put guns to anybody's head to get them to go to government schools, except for the ones whose parents really do refuse and not cooperate. But now, in the wake of COVID, it's still COVID season, I guess, right? The coronavirus is still a thing. Okay. So in the wake of COVID, you don't even have to fill out the forms. You don't want to bring your kid back to the government schools, to the indoctrination centers? No, you don't have to. Yeah. And so now you're just missing, right? But you shouldn't have to do this in the first place. I have friends who have had children without birth certificates and don't let them exist on the record anywhere or have their faces even published in photographs online because they want to give them as conscientious adults the choice about that. In a way, what we are doing today as average American parents to our children is horrific. Getting them registered with the government. You're taking away their opportunity, their choice to not be. You're saying, and I get it, in loco parentis, you're the legal guardian. You get to make those decisions, fair enough. But you don't have to. The thing is, most parents have been tricked into thinking that you have to do that. And in some ways, there is a gun to your head because if you don't go along with the government program, you don't fill out the forms for exemption, they say, yeah, your kids have to go to school, or you're breaking the law. You will face legal consequences. If you resist, we will force those consequences on you. So now the norm is you have a kid in a hospital, they get a birth certificate, they get registered with the state, they get vaccines, they get injected with everything the government says they should. They have regular follow-ups. They are registered with the social work system. And then if you don't bring them to a government indoctrination center, you have to fill out opt-out forms in order to take them out of that system. If you take their picture and put them online, you have taken away their choice to be anonymous in that regard. Every human being should have that right. And imagine kids don't even get to think about this today, but you turn 10, 12, 14 years old, something like that. You start to gain an awareness of these things, and you kind of take it for granted, and you assume that your parents made these decisions with your best interests in mind. But then you look at the state of children and youth in America today and teen suicides, and you go, maybe the parents are fucking something up, right? And one of the things that like you don't even get to think about because it's not presented as an option, and it's very heavily pushed as an assumption that you're going to be registered in the system and you're going to get a driver's license and then you're going to go to a government school and all of that. We even steal from our children the awareness that we have that this is a choice. And so unschooling as opposed to homeschooling is based on respect for individual rights. And just because someone is a kid doesn't mean that they don't have rights. And one of the most important things that you have a right to do is guide your own education, to not be forced to put something in your brain that you don't want, to be able to be respected, to make that choice. For instead of a teacher going to you and say, you will read this book or you will fail, your parents saying, hey, look at all these books that we've got. I read these and they were great. Would you like to choose one? The most effective way to teach a child to read is to not have them do drills in cemetery row seating with a government bureaucrat, but you put them in an unschooling environment where they see slightly older kids playing video games that require them to read in order to play them. And all of a sudden, those kids that don't know how to read really want to read. You make that connection for them as opposed to force it on them. And it creates a much healthier state, intellectual state for kids. Whereas this, the mentality of this created today is that reading is a chore. It's something that's forced on you. It's something that you have to do. And what that does is that disconnects humans from the rewards of intellectualism. Being intellectual is a punishment almost. Learning is a punishment, right? Oh, if you're bad, we'll give you extra homework. We'll make you learn more. Think about the really fucked up, destructive effect that has on a kid's mind, and then an adult's attitude towards learning and self-improvement. And what it does is it puts you in a survival mentality, right? Like you should be grateful that the government just allows you to live. So even before the pandemic, districts had to track down children who had stopped showing up to school or failed to appear for a new school year. They have strong incentives to find them. School funding is often allocated on a per pupil basis. Don't downscale, don't downsize, don't let students be unschooled or find competition that's better than you. Just keep forcing them in because you're getting paid to do it. Sometimes it turns out students have moved and enrolled in other districts. Other times they can't be found and are removed from the rolls. But this year, students have disappeared from classes in unprecedented numbers, forcing districts to rethink their approach to those who stopped showing up. Now, real quick, students have disappeared from classes. There's no qualifier there. Students have disappeared from forced government propaganda conditioning classes. They haven't disappeared from classes. They are in the classroom of the world of reality where they learn far more by being exposed to things than being sequestered from them. What kind of educator says, hey, in order to learn about the world, we have to isolate you from the world and make you look at my chalkboard in these textbooks? Many districts, cognizant of the damage that lost school time can cause, have employed extraordinary efforts to track down students to ensure that they are safe and have devices to learn. Others, like Detroit and Miami, have kept students on rosters even after they failed to show for an entire month. Yeah, keep that money flowing. Keep the taxpayers paying for services they're not getting, wasting it on bureaucrats who hate them. North Dakota began tracking attendance for all schools on a daily basis, and several schools use coronavirus aid to hire family liaisons to find missing students. Yeah, Several states have seen precipitous drops in public school enrollment this school year. Many have seen a rise in the number of students enrolled in private schools or being homeschooled. And they want you to wring your hands. Oh my God, there's all these students missing. It's like, no, they just didn't bother to fill out your stupid fucking forms to say, oh yeah, we're doing with our kids what we have a right to do, which is to respect their rights, rather than send them to you for your conditioning. I'm a little angry. I'm the product of public schools. You can't blame me, right? I was raised in an environment with force and violence as the norm and propaganda and coercion as the celebrated means of getting things done and controlling other people. Now, the story concludes, and this is where they want you to worry. The most worrisome cases are still the ones where a knock on the door yields no answer, or when the address belongs to an abandoned home. Now, I did say there was some tragedy in the story, and this is the real tragedy. Sorry to bring this into a Good News Friday, because there's so much powerful good news, and I told you so in this story. But the bad news is that while a number of these, unaccounted for students are simply being homeschooled or unschooled, there are a number of them whose parents simply can't afford to live the way they used to. There are now no answers. If I saw a government bureaucrat knock on my door coming to take my kid away, and if not answering the door made them just go away peacefully and quietly, I would not answer the door. No, me, I'd be more likely to tell them to go fuck off, because I'm not really worried about that, and I have better ways of avoiding a school. But I would never raise my kids somewhere that a government bureaucrat can just walk up and knock on my door. In fact, it's part of just the safety and security that I love about living off grid. My door is right here in front of I can see it from where I'm sitting in my studio. My entry to my property, my locked gate is an eighth of a mile that way. So yeah, I don't even have this problem, because I live this way. There are a lot of parents who do. The thing is, there are a lot of children who not only are in this circumstantially forced, unexpected unschooling, homeschooling situation, they also have parents who are struggling, who are depressed, who are angry, who are more likely to be abusive. And so while I can celebrate the bigger silver lining of this story and point out that this is a piece of propaganda that wants you to misunderstand the negative, the tragedy, or the nature of the tragedy here, I have to acknowledge, while passing by, the massive tragedy associated with this story. But to end on a positive note, let's take this as a chance, not only for ourselves, those of you who are parents, to be more conscientious, but also for those of us who know parents who have other people raising kids in our communities, that we can connect with them and share this understanding and be supportive in a way that encourages them to be better parents, and celebrate that this is the trend. We are rendering government obsolete, and the government is losing their grip on the education, propaganda, control, future generations racket. Very exciting. All right, we have a caller on the line, but Jim, before we get to the caller line, that was a long block, and one of the reasons I did that, I saw, I saw behind the scenes that Jim was having an internet issue, but I believe he's back. We're going to get comments. Let's get some comments up here, Jim, and then we'll go to our caller. So what do we have?
Fair enough. We got, Matt pointed out in the school session thing, Matt Baxley said schools get paid by how many asses are in the seats.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much, that sums it up pretty perfectly well, like all their other scams. That's why they're enticed to force it upon everybody, because they're trying to force themselves to get more money.
Yeah, and this points to one of the inherent dilemmas of statism and statist funding, in contrast with the market, because we really want resources and education to go where they're effective, not where they're ineffective. But when you have a forced regional or territorial kind of government school system where you are able to steal money from taxpayers and fund it, you are literally structurally incapable of balancing need and resources and funding in a way that actually creates a positive outcome. And what I mean by that, like, look at this, from a market perspective, we as a society, we want to invest resources in education. We want to educate our kids. But when you're a government bureaucrat, you go, where do I send the money? Do I send it to the school that's failing to compensate for its failures, to help those kids do better so that the kids who need more get more? Or do we send it to a school that's working so that we can actually, get shit done? Because if we send it to a school that's not working, maybe we're just throwing money away. Whereas you empower parents and the market to direct the allocation of those resources, you solve both problems. You don't have students in need forced into failing systems, and resources go where they're most effective. I mean, it's gotten so overgrown that we're at this point of just, it's maddening. Like, you look at that and you point out these fundamental things in our education system, and how at this point do you even try to defend the American paradigm of public as in government education? It's inhumane. It really is. To be a human being in America today, and know your education experience and know that kids are being subject to that today and not saying or doing anything about it, fucking inhumane. All right, what else we got?
Mick O. Fitzpatrick says, as soon as you stand, you're put into a weird building and told to sit down and shut up and repeat what you're told.
Yeah.
That's the dystopian reality of it.
That's a beautiful, poetic description of the situation, and there's so many of those. And what we are doing to children through government schools in America is, at this point, beyond inhumane. And it's not, the fact that we have come to accept it is,
as Matt points out, yeah, it is, and it's the worst. Matt points out his wife teaches 8th grade science, so at least some kids are getting introduced to libertarian ideals. I was going to say, we know there are some individual teachers that, and usually they end up being college professors because they get a little bit more leniency with what they can get away with their students, but I'm sure there are plenty of teachers in all levels.
It helps when your students aren't minors that you're sexually attracted to and they're forced to be with you.
That helps.
There have been a few stories this week that we didn't cover of like sexual abuse, assault by teachers, and you're like, well, fuck, it's not happening in private schools. Figure that one out.
Okay, yeah. So that's it. Let's get to our caller.
By the way, I don't want to pretend, I'm not so delusional that like, oh yeah, there's no sexual abuse or anything in any private schools. But when you see the stories, where's it happening? Where's it happening most often? Where is there failures and accountability? No shit.
Exactly.
All right, let's get to our caller.
Ready for the caller? Here we go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Hey, it's my old friend Matt. I don't know if you want your last name on the air here, but thank you for joining us, brother.
I don't care. I got to share it. Everyone's gonna know someday. So
yeah. Matt Moriarty, ladies and gentlemen.
Hell yeah!
Great background. Where are you?
I'm at Magic Island Peninsula in Honolulu, Hawaii. And I'm waiting for romantic magic to happen. Hopefully, no.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying better weather than we are here in the frozen mountains of Arizona. Great shirt, too, by the way. Great smile.
Thank you. I've been working on it. So I'm gonna run for office with this smile.
The only way. So Matt and I have been chatting a little bit by text lately, and Matt, how long have we known each other?
Let's see. We started talking. I was kind of having a psycho breakdown for a while, and I started talking to you. I reached out to you, and you reached out to me. That was like 5 years ago, and then we started communicating. And then I moved to Vegas, and you just happened to be going on your Freedom Tour, and that was like the last stop. And I like met you in person finally there, and I listened to your speech, and I brought a friend with me, Ed Euling, who'd run for like lieutenant governor in Hennepin, Clark County in Las Vegas. himself. He's a pretty cool guy. He brought him with me, and we talked for a while and afterwards and whatnot. But yeah, so.
All right, so Matt, I mean, whatever you want to talk about for good news on this Good News Friday, and I don't want to, reveal any more about your personal situation or circumstances, but I hope you can share something about the sort of positive transformation you've gone through recently, because I don't want to call it mental health. That's kind of pejorative, but sort of human optimization, overcoming challenges, and getting to a much better, happier place. What can you tell us about your story that way?
Yeah, I don't want to go off in too much of an autistic tangent. Scrambling is right. But let me just say, like, as far as my perspective, I was in like the lowest possible point, morale wise that you could possibly in for years on end. I had no light at the end of the tunnel at all. I just wanted to be over I was like articulately, philosophically convinced that was the case. And then it was just, and it's like going back to when I was like 17, so like 11 years ago or something. And then moving around a little bit kind of helped with that. But it didn't really start to take off until I moved to Hawaii the first time back in 2018. I finally got to develop my own life, become my own person. For the best qualities of the people that I had fallen outs with and stuff, I wish them well and whatnot, and I love and miss them for that. But some shitty qualities and some bad interaction stuff fucking with my mind there, my mind as well, especially my mind. And it wasn't until I got to Hawaii, and I always hated winter, so it's good I got there finally. So I got to Hawaii, things are starting to look up, and then I went back. I kind of had to backtrack after I went back for a passing away of a family member, and a really bad track. But I'm back on course now, and I'm having the best time of my life. I've never been happier, more confident, and things are just looking up, and then beyond the sky's the limit.
So aside from moving to Hawaii, there's lots more to it. What do you attribute your attitude shift to, really? How'd you do it?
How did I do it? Yeah, it wasn't necessary. It was not pills. Let me tell you that. I've tried all kinds of psychological pills. They didn't do jack shit for me. Like maybe some people they'd like make them worse. They didn't even do that. They're just like placebos. They didn't do anything at all. And people are like, no, well, we see difference. Like, yeah, but I don't feel any different, no matter how much of a dosage I take. So I didn't do that. It wasn't even, it wasn't talk therapy necessarily, although I think that's a very important thing. But it has to be. You have to have a very healthy environment where you're not subliminally triggered, so to speak, psychologically to like fall into negative ways of thinking and whatnot. Because every one thing I've learned, every intuition, however like imperceptibly small, adds up to something bigger for the better or the worse. So you got to take that in mind. And once I got an environment where I could start from scratch, and I love the climate and everything, my mind has just like been expanding in proactive ways exponentially ever since. So yeah, find healthy environments, and sometimes the grass is greener on the other side. So
well, what you said about talk therapy, just real quick to get back into that, it sounds like you changed your inner dialogue.
I did. Yeah, it was like, okay, too, like, I had, I like, my mind was, like, I have a huge, like, wall post. I'm not going to, like, share much of that, but of, like, what went wrong after I had to move back from Hawaii, after I had recovered from having falling outs with a bunch of people that was supposed to be close with and stuff and whatnot. But when I was recovering, at least, I was keeping proactive, like, I finally got a job. I got in some legal trouble, I think, because I was psychomotally slowed from severe depression, and that made me not think drugs. So I was over trusting of these people in my best interest and lying to me about the legality of something I was doing. And so I got into legal trouble. That kind of influenced me to finally get a job. It was just a shitty starter job at some chain place. I did get the job, and everyone there was into like hip hop. They were into like rap music. I've never been in that before. It's just like 2 years ago, and I was like, okay. I'm like kind of making fun of it at first, but then I'm like, let me mess with this a little bit, because it like at least distracts me a little bit. So I started messing with it, and I couldn't put 2 rhymes together worth a damn for like a year and a half on end. But I literally could not at all. But then it's like, holy shit, this is actually could be very therapeutic for me, because it rhyming and stuff, like when I'm on a roll, and it took me a hell of a long time to gain any traction momentum to begin with. But once I did start to really get momentum, it's like really, to a large degree, is like a self enacted coping mechanisms for fighting depression and negative thoughts whatsoever. And today it's just like one of the, or especially then, it was like the major pull start thing that started to pull me out of a major dark spot. And even though I have a lot of other things that are doing that today that are stabilizing me, it's still like one of my primary things, and I could see that at least as a side hobby, or turned into a side career at the very minimum, because of how passionate and how much it's done for me at this point. It's amazing. So my mind before, for example, even on that, just keep staying on the motive a little bit, of like music. This is how it was so slow. It doesn't matter how slow the lyrics were. I was so depressed and so just thinking repetitive, unproductive, futile, negative thoughts. I could not keep up with them. I don't care how it was just like sing-song lyrics. They're super drawn out. I could not keep up with them even if I super wanted to. But now I can freaking keep up with Eminem, Godzilla, no problem. Even after hearing it one time, I go and lip sync it, whatever. It's amazing.
Nice.
It's freaking
Nice.
Rags to Riches psych story.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I mean, there's so many powerful things about what you just said, but one thing I want to point out to people to have a little more internal awareness is that those thought loops stop you from being able to listen. And your example with music is very powerful because it illuminates how true that is in ways that we take for granted. You might be walking down the street, and if you're obsessed with negative thought patterns, you might not see the car swerving that's going to hit you, or take in the beauty of the world, or be able to appreciate the smile on a passerby's face, or when you're with your family or friends. When you're in that negative state of mind, or any kind of obsessive or repetitive thought patterns are taking you away from that, what they're doing is they're disconnecting you from the world around you. They are interfering with your ability to absorb data, sensory input, and love, and just all the positive beauty of the world. And in your case, yeah, song lyrics. And a lot of people are kind of like that anyway. They hear like Eminem or fast rapping, and it's like, oh, well, it just sounds to me. And it's like, no, but if you can quiet your mind just for a second, you go, oh yeah, I can absorb all that. The human mind, with a little bit of effort, is capable of absorbing all of that, even at great rate. So Stan Ulch weighs in, positive vibes, man. Anything else, Matt?
But I'm just having the time of my life. I'm gonna get into more podcasting, like you, my friend. I'm gonna do content creation in general. My fitness level, like I'm in the best shape of my freaking life. It was 2 years I couldn't see my abs. I couldn't. Now I can see them again. I'm only 28 and I'm freaking feeling it. I was talking to my friend who's 45, Haru, and I'm like, Haru, he's like really into fitness. That's his main thing. He's a personal trainer, and he's going to train me long term because he only does long term commitments. And what I'm going to do is I'm in better shape than I've been. I've been working like 70 hours a week, but I'm in good shape. But I'm going to be better shape. But I'm like, Haru, you're 45. Have you ever heard of the Bowflex? You're in the best shape of your life commercial. He's like, hell yeah, and I
am. Yeah, man. No, that's really encouraging. I hope for a lot of people too. Like I'm 39, getting up there, and I feel great because I've been consistently active and eaten mostly healthy my entire life, and I've never been overweight. I've never let myself fall into extended unhealthy habits. But even if you've fallen off that wagon, it's not that hard to get back on and reclaim your health and reclaim your life and your longevity, your youth. Even.
It's not definitely, and there's so many amazing, like there's no limit to how amazing life can be, and I'm hands down ready to experience whatever that means. So
awesome. Thank you for sharing all this today, Matt. Really, it's going to be hard to top this for a positive call on a Friday, right? Anything else you want to share with the audience?
I can show you some scenery. You know, I can show you the ocean. I can run over
Yeah,
there.
sure. Yeah, give us a quick
Let's do
pan.
this. Okay. Let's see here. So there's the Diamond Head over there. It's like a extinct volcano. I went over there and did some amazing sightseeing, snorkeling snorkel spectating, because I forgot my gear the other day, but it was an amazing experience nonetheless. And then here's some people doing Tai Chi, and then here's the ocean, a coastline on this peninsula called Magic Island here in Honolulu. So,
Oh man,
yeah, pretty cool
gorgeous
spot.
Well, thanks
Watch
for
out for
taking
all,
a break to join
watch out for
us.
all that. You're welcome. Thanks for having. Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
All right, brother. Really appreciate the call. Thank you very much. All right. So, hey, if you think you can top that for some good news for this Friday, good luck. But we want more calls. If you can call in today, we've got the link in the comments, and great comments with that call. Thank you for everybody who was a part of celebrating there and learning from Matt's experience and just spreading those good vibes. So now we get into our cutting edge of technology. What do we call this block? Tech innovation. And there's some great stuff and some scary stuff. And Slate.com kicks it off with 3D printed guns are getting more capable and accessible. Now, this is great tech innovation in and of itself. And props to Cody Wilson, defense distributor, my friend there, for putting this or pushing this forward with things like the Ghost Gunner and the first 3D printed plastic gun that was functional. But it's not a good thing that we need guns. I'm certainly pro-gun in the sense that you have the right to defend yourself as you see fit. And unfortunately, with today's technology, until we have drones with cargo nets everywhere and disabling tasers set to stun and things like that, it is appropriate to defend yourself with a firearm and to be able to do that without government knowing that what you are using to defend yourself, or without anybody knowing. So today, buying a gun and having it, with a serial number and background check and register. There are plenty of ways to get guns without government knowing about it, but the idea of 3D printing guns is going to take that to the next level, right? On January 1, Chase to Catch, chair of the Orleans County, I think it's Orleans County, New York Libertarian Party, also known as porn actor Molly Smash, uploaded 2 fast-flashing dubstep turned theatrical trailers to their Pornhub channel. The videos were promoting cheap, untraceable, 3D printed, plastic, do-it-yourself, semi-automatic guns. That's because To Catch likes guns, specifically unregulated ones, and homemade guns are so hot right now. And this is great. The story gives you the historical perspective. People have been making 3D printed guns at home since 2013. They used to be pretty low tech, capable of one shot before busting, but they've come a long way in the past few years. Now you can print untraceable AR-15s, AKMs, semi-auto pistols, and more. No serial number, no registration, no background check. Up until recently, however, the best you could do with a semi-auto like an AR was 3D print the lower receiver, the core part that's regulated as a firearm. Users still had to buy traditional metal magazines, triggers, and barrels to complete the kit and build a working gun. That's easy to do if you live in America, where most people can purchase gun parts minus the receiver online. But it's a problem if you live in a country with strict gun control like Germany, where most people can't easily purchase the necessary parts. All that changed in March when 3D printing firearm enthusiasts publicly released the design for a 100% homemade semi-auto rifle that not only shoots 9mm ammo exceptionally well, but is durable enough to withstand thousands of rounds. Yep. Yep. And again, it's one of those things, if you want to get way more into it, jump in, links in the notes. But there it is. Link is actually exclusively at t.me/Adam versus the Man. Join our Telegram channel where we promote those links. All right, up next, Twitter has this from, well, it's not Twitter. Sleep Paralysis Demon, Len Kusov on Twitter posted this. PSA, if you or someone nearby are being brutalized by a police spot robot and can get a hand or something underneath, grab this handle and yank it forward. This releases the battery, instantly disabling the robot. Now, the odds of you being brutalized by a dog that doesn't have a gun attached to it that's going to shoot you before you grab its battery, pretty low. This is not going to be a very, a very likely hack to use. I think if you need to defend yourself against robot dogs, like an EMP or something signal interference, might be a lot more practical. But underneath this tweet, Len Kusov says, if you are a bystander and can get behind Spot, don't hit the power button, hit the other button. It physically disconnects the motors. Spot can also be countered with booby traps easily. If you are armed, shoot center of mass as normal. The lithium pack is huge and not armored. The first tweet is, this releases the battery instantly. Keep your hands away from joints. Spot will crush your fingers. Yeah. What are the odds? I mean, it's just hard to imagine a physical scenario where there's a robot dog bothering you or someone nearby, but you can get underneath it and grab the battery off its belly or reach around to its butt and push the motor disconnect mechanisms. But again, technology, it's a funny thing, and as much as they want to push it to keep people down, the ways around it and rendering the means of using it for tyranny oppression are being rendered obsolete by the same technologies and an increased understanding. In this case, it's kind of cool to see. I mean, like I said, maybe not the two most practical hacks for when you're getting harassed by a robot police dog, but very cool to see that this technology is already being explored with the goal of defending people from it. From the Washington Post via StanfordAdvocate.com, solar cars driving on sunshine. And some of you might recall, by the way, go watch the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car. If you haven't seen it, I rewatched it last week. Definitely worth watching again. And there was a race for a independently solar powered car, and the first one that was designed was similar to the one that you see in the story, except way lower to the ground, way more aerodynamic. And the driver was a one-person vehicle, had to like lay back, and it wasn't safe or easy to control. But hey, we're there. We're getting to the next level. The dream began in 1955 with a tiny toy-like creation called the Sunmobile, built from balsa wood and hobby shop tires, just 15 inches long. The 12 selenium solar cells that decorated its exterior produced less horsepower than an actual horse, but it was proof of a concept. Sunlight alone can make a vehicle run. What's fucking insane about this story is that was 1955. It's 2021. You watch the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car, and you go, oh yeah, because of oil and gas, because government, because corruption. That's why we can't apply these technologies on the timeline we should, and we are stuck destroying the environment with fossil. I shouldn't say destroying. That's liberal sensationalism, but damaging, reducing the quality of the environment and the health of billions of humans with pollution all over the world, because this technology has been suppressed. The years went on, and the dream evolved into a converted vintage buggy with solar panels on its roof, then a glorified bicycle, a retiree's garage project, a race car that crossed the Mojave Desert at 51 miles per hour. That's the one I was describing earlier. It is a dream of perpetual motion, of travel that doesn't do damage to the planet, of journeys that last as long as the sun shines. There are problems with this dream, big ones. Clouds come, night falls. The laws of physics limit how efficiently solar panels can turn light into energy. One startup claims it has overcome those problems. Now its founders say the dream can be yours for as little as $25,900. That's where we're at. And I'm kind of surprised that Tesla hasn't gotten more into this. The general mainstream push for electric cars has been focused on charging with batteries. But if you and one of the pushes for the electric car was an acknowledgement of the limit, like of the lack of power infrastructure or range. But there are two obvious solutions to that seem to escape people. One is that why have a battery charging station when you could have a battery swap station? And it functions just like gas, right? You drive your electric car up to, instead of a charging station, plugging in and sitting there and fucking waiting for your battery to charge. So we haven't really figured that out. There's a certain limitation, a physics limitation of how fast a battery can charge, right? When you take physical gas, you dump liquid into a tank, that chemical energy stored in that, it's all there, boom, right? With a battery, you're putting electricity and it has to go through the connections. It has to go into the storage and change the physical nature. You have to put that energy into that physical object. So why not make the batteries like really swappable? Maybe they're still heavy, but you could have in your battery changing station. Sounds like baby changing station, right? You could have like a little swing arm on it, and you pop a box or you pop your trunk and lift something out, and or figure maybe it's under the hood, right? You open up the hood, and then this little swing arm comes in, lifts up your battery, swaps it out, puts a new battery in, boom, back on the road. And then the other one was solar charging, because they said, well, hey, if you only drive 120 miles per day, you can plug your car in at home, and then you can drive around, and then you can come back and plug it in at night and leave in the morning. Most people are, when you have the luxury of the flexibility that a gas engine gives you, people don't really want that limitation. So fucking slap a solar panel on the roof, and even if it doesn't charge nearly as fast as when you're driving, what if you had a 120-mile commute, but you're sitting at work for 8 hours and you don't have a charging station at work? Okay, but over time, that solar will charge your battery back up. I mean, even those kinds of like obvious solutions are, I'm not saying, oh my God, why didn't Elon Musk think of that? I'm sure he has. But the fact that they're not more widely applied is the product of artificial market manipulation incentives created by government. And so you can't stop the idea, though, and it's here for $25,900. Aptera Motors, a California company whose name comes from the ancient Greek for wingless, is rolling out the first mass-produced solar car this year, a three-wheeled, ultra-aerodynamic electric vehicle covered in 34 square feet of solar cells. The car is so efficient that on a clear day, those cells alone could provide enough energy to drive about 40 miles, more than twice the distance of the average American's commute. And a lot of this sort of more conscientious living comes from understanding what's important to you and being able to simplify. Like even I'll make the comparison here to living off grid, and I think about this really every day. I got to work a little harder to take a shower. I got to work a little harder to cook if I want. I got to work a little harder to take a shit because I shit in an outhouse, right? But I don't live in a place where if somebody else fucks up my water, the plumbing going into my house, I can't poop. I gotta go somewhere else. No, like I don't like. Yes, I do all these extra little things to live practically because I haven't built everything that I want to here yet. But some people come out to this lifestyle and go, oh my gosh, I had to poop in a bucket. That's terrible. Let's put me back on the grid. And then they go, wait, now I have to work a 9 to 5 again? Oh shit, this is a lot worse. Yeah. Well, in this case, the advantages of an electric vehicle with solar panels that you could plug in compared to the gas guzzlers, this is huge. Now, one of the criticisms, of course, of electric cars is that they actually require more energy altogether if you're getting power off the grid, and that power is coming from a coal plant or something else like that, fossil fuels based. But solar panels solves that. Solar panels on your house and then charge your car with that solves that. Battery swapping stations. Wait, no, that doesn't solve that. That's a different issue. But there are plenty of other ways around this. And as we develop solar power on grid electricity or wind power, and by the way, solar doesn't necessarily mean panels. Solar power can be hydrothermal, and there's a big place outside of Vegas where they're doing this, where they have mirrors set up, and the mirrors reflect the sunlight to a tower that's got a giant water tank, and the electricity is generated from the heat, and I don't know if that water moves through a turbine or pressure or something like that. But electric cars, it's happening, and they're coming, and who knows, your self-driving, self-flying car is probably not going to have an internal combustion engine in it. USA Today, the next story, going back to robotic dogs, I guess. Robotic dogs serve beer to bar patrons in Spain to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Yeah, well, robot bartenders are here. Now they're a thing. And again, another silver lining with COVID in the drive for a more hygienic lifestyle, people turning more to robots rather than interacting with fellow human beings. in some ways, yeah, there's a lot of downside to this, but in terms of pushing certain technologies forward that are behind, there's a lot of positivity in this. Speaking of behind energy technologies I can't believe it's taken this long. CNET has this headline: how this artificial blowhole aims to make wave energy mainstream. And you go, hey, you know how there's that ocean there and there's waves and water constantly moving around? Why don't we use that for electricity instead of going out into the ocean and drilling holes to release fossil fuels and risking another BP oil spill, right? I mean, the insanity. The Uniwave 200's design aims to solve problems of efficiency, durability, and accessibility that have so far prevented wave energy from joining the ranks of wind and solar. And I mean, I see a story like this, the way it works. As incoming waves flow into the chamber, air is compressed, which spins the turbine. And most of these types of turbines are bidirectional, meaning the turbine spins as air is pushed out. The rising waves, and when air is sucked back in by the receding waves, the Uniwave is different. I guess it works both ways. It's a unidirectional turbine, way more efficient than previous bidirectional turbines. But the increased efficiency here. Anyway, I don't want to get too into the technology here because I didn't study it. But it's really cool to see that this is happening. We are on the verge of actually practical applications for wave energy. Yeah. And I mean, you stop and think about this for a second. We had the turbine guy on the show earlier this week talking about wind energy, and I guess I don't know about. I don't want to announce too much, but we are working on getting a wind turbine here with his help in Gardenia. And you go, well, look, there's all this stuff moving all around us. There's sun all around us. How do we capture this to make electricity and make energy? And then you go, well, fuck it. Let's just drill into the earth and burn fossil fuels and make pollution. And you go, oh my gosh, how are we still doing things this way? But we are coming out of it, and it feels like we're on I see like this story about wave energy, and it feels like we are on the verge of solving the energy problem with technology, whether it's solar. I mean, even just solar being cheap and available and practical enough is going to revolutionize the world in the next 5 to 10 years if we don't think of something better in the meantime. The idea that you get power off. I mean, look at everybody in Texas right now going, oh my God, power's out because of snow. I bet you, and I know it's snowy, but I'll bet you wish you had some kind of independent power source, wind or solar, right? And right now, an individual, like you think about your typical mainstream American homeowner paying for electricity. I don't know I should look this up. What's the average American? I mean, I don't have to know this, but what is the average American electric bill? And we saw like with price gouging and all this bullshit in Texas, they were trying to jack the prices up to $17,000 for some people in just a residential home. And there was some real manipulative fuckery around all this. So according to Google, what is the average American electric bill? And this is from EIA.gov. It said in 2019, the average monthly electricity bill for residential customers in the United States was 1.8% lower than in 2018, down from $118 to $115 a month. So even if that's a bit high, $100 a month, well, do I pay $100 a month or do I get a solar system? Well, let's see. I could get a solar power system and take my house off grid because I don't have any particular high electricity needs that justify being on grid. I could get a simple system that achieves all of my needs with today's prices. And this is true. I mean, my system here is just a couple grand. For, let's say, $2,000, you can buy a lot of solar power. You can buy a really nice, practical home solar setup for about $2,000. And if you had a jet, let's say you really want to demand that you have, exactly the same educational or electrical needs, power needs. You still want to run your dishwasher You still want to run your laundry machines, and all your TVs and electronics. Well, most of the things in a typical are like power tools. Even a lot of those things are not continuous use. You know, your lights, your TV, your small electronics, things like that. Your fridge, your water pump, water heater, right? You're using those sort of continuously. That's your sort of baseline draw. That stuff can easily be covered at the solar system that costs under $2,000. But then you can add a generator, get a little gas powered generator, $500, and if you use it only at those times you need those, high electric draw appliances, you're not going to spend very much on gas for your generator. Typical little basic gas generator. All right, here we go. 420 Pat Rock wants to weigh in with some specifics. $250 per 30 amp panel, $200 per battery, $200 converter box. So I don't know what you're doing here. You want to lower my estimate of a practical house solar system to cover those things. Maybe it's $1,000. Right. But let's say $1,000 for the solar stuff. $500 for a little gas generator and some gas and overhead installation, and you got to put the panels on the roof and blah. Maybe you're gonna spend $2,000, but then you're done. You're off grid. You don't need the grid anymore. Period. You can go to your utility company and cut the cord if you didn't sign a contract that says you have to. And there's some fucked up laws around that shit too. But okay, so right now, today's technology, it's $2,000 and a little bit of thought, and you never have to pay your $100 electric bill ever again. So 20 months. You got to be thinking that in order for this to make sense, you have to sort of be stationary and committed to your location, or, at least know that your investment in that house is going to add value to it, and you're going to get compensated for that somehow, in order to make this little personal infrastructure investment that gets you off fossil fuel-based grid electricity. That's a lot, right? It's not easy, if the technology was frozen in its current state, eventually still everybody would transition to this, right? It just makes sense. So you're going to save money in the long run. Okay, eventually, with today's technology and today's corporatism, eventually the technology will beat the corporatism. Oil and gas will be out of business in just a matter of time. But, like I said, that's $2,000 today. What if we get that down to $300? What if it's like one panel you just attach to your roof, one cord you run to where your electricity comes in, and that's it? What if you had like a whole self-contained unit that was solar panel, charge controller, batteries, and inverter, and it sent out 120 volt just directly into your house, and it cost $300? A little fantasy of mine. It's not that far off. It's already possible with today's technology. It just hasn't been implemented and put together into that package to be that low of a price. So 420 Pat Rock there. You seeing my point here? You see where I'm going with this? All of this is, we are on the verge of a major shift. Okay, so 420 Pat Rock, solar stimulus would be a positive step. One stimulus could convert the whole country into off-grid. Yeah, of course. But that's a nice sort of statist legal government benefit fantasy. And I agree. Like, hey, if we can use the government to change its policies to approximate the market better and alleviate human suffering, we shouldn't condemn government doing anything just because it's government. But that's never going to happen. This government is in the pockets of the oil and gas industry. If that solar credit thing were to happen, it would not signal, oh, government suddenly loves us and wants to take care of us and stop polluting the environment. No, it would be the sign that the technology has shifted enough that the corporate power is now more aligned with solar than with oil and gas. And if it happens, it's not going to be good. Or it's not going to be as good as it would happen with the market. But yeah, it could. All right, so the Sun has our next headline, and this is a little bit of the scary stuff. Energy beam. U.S. Navy tests solar satellite. Oh, I'm sorry, this isn't scary. This is still cool stuff. U.S. Navy tests solar satellite that can beam power to anywhere on Earth from space. The U.S. Navy has fired a pizza box-sized satellite into orbit that generated enough electricity to power an iPad. Yeah, beams it back to Earth as microwaves. Excuse me. Navy could one day scale the technology up and create a network of panels. Network could generate enough electricity to power whole cities. Maybe that's the future. I don't think it's necessary. Why have stuff in the sky when you just have it right there on your house? But it's interesting to think that if somehow humans' need for electricity skyrocket, and it's going to go up. I mean, we put our consciousness into robots and computers and all that. They're going to take more electricity than just producing food today, right? Maybe not. Maybe we get more energy efficient over time. Who knows? But even here, we see the potential of a solar array in space beaming power back through microwave. That's an option on the horizon now. Speaking of increasing potential, ScienceAlert.com physicists just reached a new speed limit for moving quantum information. That's a big headline to unpack. Scientific progress towards a quantum computing future has so far involved lots of different breakthroughs in lots of different but related fields. And there's now a new one to report: the discovery of a crucial quantum speed limit. This latest research answers a fundamental question: how fast can a quantum process be? It's a useful piece of information to know if you want to build a quantum computer or quantum network, as it tells you some of the limitations inherent in the system. Thankfully, for those of us who aren't quantum physicists, the team behind the new study has provided an easier to understand analogy, which involves a skilled waiter rushing around with a tray of drinks. How quickly can the waiter get all the drinks distributed without spilling any of the liquid? The answer, turns out, is to carefully speed up and slow down at certain points, tipping the glasses of liquid when needed to avoid spillage. Only here, the scientists used cooled down cesium atoms instead of champagne and an optical trap created by 2 laser beams as the drinks tray. All right, that's as far as we're going to get into the technicals of that. I'll just point out that this radical increase in computing power, like, we talk about Moore's law, that in traditional microchips, computing power doubles every 18 months. It's an exponential thing. And some people will contest that and say, well, it's not exact. Yeah, okay, it doesn't matter. It's pointing out the exponential nature of technology and computing power specifically in a way that you can trace and actually see in an exponential curve. But now with quantum computing, we're getting to the points of breakthrough where that curve kind of goes vertical. And what the computational speed limit is no longer a restraint on what we can do. Pretty fucking amazing. Futurism.com, this is the scary one. U.S. Army testing machine gun style laser weapon that vaporizes targets. Quote, this is not science fiction. Yeah. The United States Army is developing a powerful new laser weapon capable of rapidly firing metal vaporizing pulses, much like a machine gun. The new weapon, called the Tactical Ultra Short Pulsed Laser, the TUPL, for Army platforms, TUPLAP, the TUPLAP, yeah, is expected to be about 1 million times stronger than any other laser weapon out there. Based on the military's plans for the weapon, the laser will more closely resemble the sorts of laser rifles in science fiction movies than anything engineers have built in the past. Now, this is scary, right? When government has this technology. But this plays perfectly into a construction fantasy of mine. When I was driving around the Red Cliff National Parks around Sedona last year, and I was thinking about all the different places I could build a house or an apartment or something like into the side of the cliff or hanging off of it, because you don't need to be on the ground if you have a self-flying car. You could literally be hanging off the side of a cliff with your home and have little helipads sticking out and just fly around. Now, there's a lot of safety, concerns with that. But what my fantasy was that at some point you'll have, I was thinking you'd have, even with today's technology, right? You could take a laser, point it at a side of a cliff where you want the top left corner of your apartment to be, and then you have a little charging station, solar powered, where drones fly back and forth and charge and send little chisels in and chisel out your 3D drawing of a space that you want in there. And then helicopters or bigger drones fly in and install like a steel frame, and then you can build a house and you have a porch sticking out, and you could have your little drone pad on your patio deck. All right, that's my off-grid construction, high-tech fantasy. But think about what a laser cannon could do in this. If you put this a laser cannon, if it can destroy rock, if it can destroy metal, it can destroy rock. You could carve rock now on any scale you want with a 3D printed model. See how we turn this destructive story into good news? It's because it's Friday. If it was any other day, we'd be talking about how scary this is. All right, we still got 3 more segments to get through, but we got a caller on the line. Good comment so far. Keep them coming. Apparently, Stephen Mcclure is waiting backstage with Homefront Battle Buddies. Our executive director. Is Stephen there?
What's up? How are you?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Mcclure. How you doing today, brother?
I am well. I think I've said this a few times, but every time I'm on camera, I got these because me and you know this. The CIA, FBI, NSA, Department of Homeland Security, they get paid way too much money. So there's some guy who dropped out of high school who is looking at his computer trying to impress his boss. Here you go, bud. You can tell your boss that you found a guy with a plate carrier talking to an anarchist or a volunteer. I'm sorry. So I've got some really good news. We have had 3 people reach us out. Money, land in the Carolinas.
Yes.
You can use.
Yes.
And land outside of Vegas.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So we are now in need of $1,900 for our original setup cost. If you would like to help with that $1,900, that'd be awesome. If you have another location that you want to host out of, that'd be awesome as well. Are you ready for something that's never been said on your show?
Hold on, no, I'm not ready. Give me a couple hours and we'll come back to it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
wait. Okay, now I'm ready.
There's a not piece of shit sheriff that exists.
Okay.
He's actually pretty rock star. So some of y'all may remember I was shopping for a rifle on Black Friday, and that eventually led up to Sheriff Ray Cross coming to my home, which I took a lot of issue with. I don't like government authorities on my doorstep. It's not okay. I've talked to Sheriff Cross a few times. He's a pretty hard Republican. They are attempting to revoke, stand your ground, which means that if somebody comes in your house, you can assume deadly force.
Right.
They are attempting to revoke that because of and they're using Ashad Arbery as a scapegoat. I'm sorry, but if you didn't make it so hard for somebody to legally carry a gun, maybe the guy that got ran down by, I don't know, the district attorney's uncle wouldn't be able to.
If we lived in a world, this is why we say an armed society is a polite society. And, I generally have a very strong preference towards non-lethal weapons for defense, but to have the right and the ability, and if guns were freely available, and this is one of the reasons it is worthwhile. And one of the stories we're going to get to next week that we skipped this week was a list of 200 corporations that are supporting gun control measures. We want to be conscious consumers and not support them.
Yeah.
But if there's a real positive effect from people not knowing whether a stranger on the street is armed or not. You go to New York City, you walk around on the street, you are pretty safe to assume that no one is armed unless they are serious gangster type criminals or cops or some kind of law enforcement, that the general population is disarmed. And what that does is that robs us of a certain human expectation of the ability to defend ourselves. It creates a mentality among all of us, but assholes especially, that it's okay to victimize people safely. You can get in a fight at a bar, like just drunken bar fight. How many drunk assholes wouldn't start bar fights if they knew there were more guns out there? How many less muggings, rapes, home invasions would happen? And in that sense, I more than I'm concerned with gun rights specifically, I am very concerned with restoring a paradigm of self-defense.
So Sheriff Cross came out with a memo, an external memo, saying that in Dade County, your home is considered your property because it is, and if somebody comes onto your home, without their consent,
hold on, just this extends to places you're renting, because it's not just that you own it as a home, but that it is your residence. It's not just a house that you own; it is your home, and you have a right to that space.
And later on, he's going to talk about your vehicle, and your place of business.
Yeah.
He has instructed his investigators to not abide by that. He said, if this law gets passed, if somebody attacks somebody in this county on their property, in their home, they do whatever they got to do to be safe. And he said something I found very interesting. He said, you treat them, you allow them the same amount of force you would use. And I'm sitting here going, a sheriff is saying that I'm allowed to use the same amount of force he is? Ooh. But it gets better. It gets better. That memo came out 2 weeks ago. Last week, there was a county commissioners meeting. I was fortunate enough to get a seat in. And I won't get all the details, but the census that brings in money, we're not going to bring in as much money from state and federal sources, so they've got to cut budget. So they said that all new projects are on hold. One of the new projects that they were going to look at in a couple months is a new sheriff's department with a new jail. So the sheriff has written an internal memo that went public saying only arrest violent offenders and do not arrest anybody for possession of marijuana unless they are a violent individual. He said you can choose to take their weed or you can choose to let them keep their weed.
We still authorize you stealing shit from the public.
Well, so they don't have enough beds right now to house everybody for petty possession.
Better build some more jails, man.
And guess what? Well, so the memo went external. Somebody leaked it.
Right.
And he got confronted about it. And he said, cool, you want me to arrest these people? I need $15 million for new sheriff's department. I got some thoughts on that. I'm really hoping.
This guy still sounds like a piece of shit in a lot of ways, you know. But I don't want to. I'm going to challenge you on that because it's sort of like when we look at Donald Trump's populism.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that in his messaging that we as libertarians like, but we still know that he doesn't mean it and he's full of shit. But we can take it as good news that the populist paradigm has shifted. That for Donald Trump to win as a Republican, he has to say that he's anti-war, right? For your sheriff to maintain his elected position, he has to at least pretend to respect the rights of the people in his county and even might be genuinely doing a good thing here in changing policy. But it's not because he's a good guy. It's because he's responding to changing incentives. And he's still using this to say, well, give me $15 million.
Well, so I confronted him on this, and I said, here's what's going on. I kind of want to I want some answers on this. I want to know, is the only reason you're not arresting somebody right now is it's not financially feasible.
Yeah, right.
And he goes, okay, hold on. And we had a pretty good conversation. 92% of the inmates are violent sexual offenders.
Wow.
We are one of the most scarcely populated places in Georgia.
Hold on, let me comment on that real quick. Make sure I got you. 92% of inmates locked up in your county jail are violent sexual offenders.
Yeah.
So and let me point out these are people who deserve to be forcibly isolated from society. When you have so significant, right?
Let's talk about what a jail is.
Well, no, this is in contrast to most jails that have huge portions of the population there for nonviolent regulatory drug offenses.
Yeah. So we are just south of Chattanooga. And we're in a really weird position because there's all sorts of private schools, all sorts of universities, all sorts of parks and tourist attractions. And if you look at rape statistics, it comes in one of two areas. When the victim knows the aggressor, or when the victim is in an unfamiliar place.
Right.
And unable to defend themselves. Once again, unable to defend themselves. I am not saying give a 5-year-old a pistol. However, I am saying that a lot of these victims are college girls. If you're an 18-year-old girl, I can teach you to defend yourself in about 10 seconds with pepper spray or a gun. It's really easy.
How old does someone? How old? Just totally sidebar security question. How old do you think a kid should have to be, or what should they have to demonstrate to be able to carry pepper spray?
So I think that's a silly question, because there are some adults that I wouldn't give.
Well, that's why I said, what should they have to show?
They have to understand two things. One, this inflicts pain on somebody.
Right.
And this is the barrier that has to be crossed for me to inflict this amount of pain on them.
Yeah.
So if somebody can articulate and demonstrate what those precursors are.
Wait. I have a better answer.
Okay.
If you're old enough to say, I want to carry pepper spray and willing to get pepper sprayed, then you can carry pepper spray.
I don't want to get fucking pepper sprayed. I have a really big issue with that in the civilian now, because no one ever shot my ass so I could carry
Yeah, I went straight to that too. Yeah, but I've been pepper sprayed a few times, and the first time was intentionally by my girlfriend to test it.
I saw that video.
There's that. Yeah. By the way, that's one of my classics. I gotta plug this. Go back and watch Adam versus the pepper spray and the taser. It's a fun little security video too.
For people that don't know this, the first time I was exposed to Adam, I was in high school, about to graduate, about to go into the Navy, headed into the special operations community. I was super excited, and this chick that I was screwing posted a video on Facebook of this jackass in Congress going, they keep changing these fucking cards. They didn't even cut it square. We changed our cards more than we changed our underwear. And I was like, somebody give the man a new pair of underwear. What the fuck? So that was Adam at the Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
so
Veterans Against the War.
I confronted her about it, and she's like, that's not his only video. I'm like, that's all right, let's watch videos. And I watched this like 100-pound girl mace you the fuck up, and it was hilarious. Yeah.
It was she got I opened my eyes. Anyway, so Stephen, I want to wrap up with Homefront Battle Buddies, but anything else you got to say about your sheriff?
So I want to ask a question. So incarceration, in my opinion, is saying that somebody's not fit for society and we need to ostracize them.
No. They're an immediate threat that should be forcibly isolated.
Okay. So I think that most people that are incarcerated right now don't meet that criteria.
Absolutely correct.
I think there's no victim. And I'm going to say this, and this might draw some backlash. If somebody's stealing from you without using force, credit card fraud, robbing your house when they know you're not there, I'm on the fence of whether or not they should be incarcerated. But if somebody's robbing you at gunpoint, I have no issue with it.
Well, let me answer that question, if I may, quickly from the libertarian analysis, which is that if someone is stealing or has stolen, but in that theft they have only taken value from people, they have not, you didn't steal a pacemaker that caused someone to die, or a battery out of someone's car that left them stranded. You're just taking money out of accounts. You still need to be held responsible for that as a debt. And so forcibly accosting that person, not justified. Forcibly reclaiming stolen property, justified. holding them accountable for that debt in whatever way society deems is appropriate for a debt of that nature, appropriate, cutting them off from economic opportunities as a result, voluntarily, totally appropriate, giving them an opportunity, if they've signed up for it, for a sort of debtor's prison to work off that debt, could be appropriate. But you're right, philosophically saying, because you have this debt from a theft, does not justify using force against your person.
So one of my big issues with the criminal justice system, if you want to call it that, is I don't see a whole lot.
It's the legal system.
Okay, that's one of my issues with the legal system, the court system here in Georgia. 92% of people are sexual offenders, and most of them are awaiting trial, which I think is silly. Right? Let's get them in trial as soon as possible and deal with it.
Yeah.
So in Georgia, if you rape somebody first time, it's 20 years. Like that's the penalty is 20 years. It's 10 to 20. Most rural judges are going to go high, so it's 20 years. The victim, the woman, the child that is raped, is only given 3 hours of therapy by the state. So 3 hours of what the fuck do you think you're going to do?
Yeah, so it would be a huge step towards real justice in our current system if the rapist was at very least forced to pay for all necessary and appropriate therapy for the victim. But really, it should be damages and all reduction of quality of life as a result of that rape they should be responsible for. And this is like when my motorcycle was stolen and recovered after a high-speed chase, and I got a judgment for restitution against the guy. The state spent hundreds of thousands of dollars persecuting him, and I didn't see a dime of that. There's an absolute disconnect from justice when you don't have these concepts of holding people accountable for damages and making victims whole, and instead you have a punishment paradigm instead of a justice paradigm.
Yep. So let's think about who I am and where I live. I live in a dry county. What that means
That's
here,
your fault.
Yeah, it was. Well, so here's what that means, at least in this county. You can't buy it here. You can consume it here, but you can't buy it. So I go 5 minutes up the road, I buy it, I come home.
Fair enough.
It's fine. I don't really do a whole lot of drugs. I smoke a little bit of weed. I smoke a lot of CBD. I drink occasionally. People that are young victims of extreme violence and sexual violence and made a consistent victim, especially by the same person, have thousands of times more likely to go into negative behavioral cycles. And it's like, let's fix that, right? Let's give them the help they need and let's fix that. But I really think that it has to do where I have no issue. Here's my issue with taxation. They're using it for things I don't agree with some of the time, right? So if they only used it for things I agreed for and they let me pick how the money was spent, I'd be cool with that. I'd be 100% okay with that.
Voluntary government service conglomerate.
But because they say, hey, we're going to research the smell of ant farts. or I don't know, we're gonna kill Iranians in Syria with your money.
Okay, now I got to get back to the weed smoking.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be Good Friday. I'm an asshole. But I really do want to commend Sheriff Cross. I think his heart is going in the right place. We are looking at decriminalizing it locally, and there's a lot of looks at what we want to. So to give people an idea, I live in the heart of, how do you say her name? Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is my rep. Yeah. There are people here who do agree with her that QAnon is a thing. There are people here who agree that Hillary Clinton is a lizard person. I agree with that, but a little bit differently, I guess.
Okay.
And they're seriously looking at whether or not they want to decriminalize production of alcohol. And in Georgia, you can. It's a really slippery slope. You can consume cannabis, but they're allowed to test it, and if the THC is so high, then it's a criminal offense, and it's bullshit and it's bogus. But they're in Dade County. They're looking at decriminalizing all of that for no other reason than finances. I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
Yeah, so circumstances forcing people to do the right thing. Steven, I want to end on a positive note and talk about Homefront Battle Buddies. It's really cool. We got that logo up publicly and a mission sentence, if not a formalized mission statement. And if I can get it right off the top of our head, the mission of Homefront Battle Buddies is to create a community of veterans supporting each other, exploring alternative healing therapies through an online community and in-person retreats. Yep. And the logo that I'll take credit for putting together, I did with a lot of help and input from the Producers Club and friends and family. And, the clasped hands and the Red Cross and the cannabis leaf together on a med pouch, symbolizing all of that, I think is just presenting your and my vision as clearly as that is inspiring a lot of people. And I want to share one other thing that came to us during this time that might be the sort of business model for this, is that if we can get dispensaries to sponsor retreats, how many dispensaries would do it for the tax break where, give us a few $1,000s and we're going to get a couple dozen veterans out to some campsite, and you pay for food and logistics, and you can make a presentation and on your shop and your cannabis, and have an expert come and give some samples for the weekend and help help veterans explore that, and maybe win some regular consistent customers, and if not, just help spread the positive gospel of cannabis and alternative healing therapies and getting away from pharmaceuticals. Of course, we're using the cannabis leaf symbolically, not to say this is the only thing we're about, but this might provide us with the mechanism to do what we want to do in a way that creates real commercial value for existing cannabis dispensaries, where they get a tax break, promotional value, and a chance to grow their customer base with a local community of veterans. And so there are a lot of things like that, sort of variations on that, ways of getting government grants to support things like that. And now that we have that vision sort of that clearly, and I've posted it a few times, the logo on social media, that's where I think you got those emails. I was telling people, all right, I'm doing my job recruiting people and sending them to Steven. And it's great that that's working now. And so I'll do it again and say, if Jim can get his email up, Steven@thefreedomline.com. There it is. Look at that. Spelled wrong with a PH.
Oh, fuck you.
Steven@thefreedomline.com. Check it out. Send him an email if you want to get involved with Homefront Battle Buddies, as I think we've got our plans laid out, we've got some vision laid out, and we're ready to start asking for help and bringing in resources and get towards our first goals of having the C3, whatever legal financial organization, corporate mechanism set up, a website, and to have a launch retreat with a board of directors of vets.
And one other thing about Homefront, if somebody's listening or if somebody knows somebody, send them my way. If they can build a website, we will give them a very generous, tell me how much you think your work is worth, and we will send you a very generous tax deduction paperwork.
Yes, that is Stephen, let me underscore this one more time. We got a C3. You can donate labor at whatever is a reasonable market value. Hint, and we can, once we have our C3 paperwork organized, it's very easy for us to send you a letter with our EIN on it that you can file with your taxes to reduce your tax liability. And that applies to, you want to loan us a vehicle, you want to loan us your land, you want anything that you can contribute at all within the legal confines of what's appropriate for our mission. Anything that you can contribute to this effort can be in the future counted as a tax deduction.
Yep. So actually, because of some religious freedoms, you can donate anything and you don't even have to call it what it is.
No shit. Yes, exactly. All right. Well, hey, Steven, I got to give you the last word here to wrap it up, but I do want to breeze. We have some good. I got 3 more segments of good news to share with our audience
Go for it.
before we go long and sign off on today's show. So, what's your final pitch to get people involved in supporting Homefront Battle Buddies?
Jim, throw my email down. If there's something you want to do in Homefront, let me know, and you can do it. That's how you get in touch with me. I'll give you a phone call right after that, and we'll go from there. But if there's anything you want to do, let's do it. Because right now it's me, and I'm not really good at anything.
All right, beautiful, Steven. Well, don't sell yourself short, but point well taken. Yes, we do need some specific skills brought to bear right now. We do need a little seed money. So help us out. You can also contact me, Adam at Adam at thefreedomline.com, wherever that is, or the form actually at adamversustheman.com goes to that email as well. All right, so we're going to skim through the last of our good news, and you can see all the show notes exclusively at t.me/adamversustheman, and then check in with our comments, although you can just put them up on screen, keep them coming. We talked about the Mars landing last week, and this is a little bit old now, but if you haven't seen it, worth checking out. NASA releases Mars landing video, stuff of our dreams. Yeah, NASA on Monday released the first high-quality video of a spacecraft landing on Mars, a 3-minute trailer showing the enormous orange and white parachute hurtling open and the red dust kicking up as rocket engines lowered the rover to the surface. I'm looking at this picture of the parachute with the red and white sort of striped circle design going, is that a signal? Is that like an alien communication? I don't know. But yeah, go watch the video. Another science news story from CNN.com. Amazing close-up of Venus captured by NASA Parker Solar Probe. Yeah, check it out. New views of Venus. Now, finally, in our exploration block, Cron.com, as private companies erode government's hold on space travel, NASA looks to open a new frontier. And it's not a new frontier of government spending that I'm looking forward to, but celebrating that we are pushing government out of the space race entirely. The 4 astronauts who will fly aboard a SpaceX mission by the end of the year will be a bunch of private citizens with no space experience. One's a billionaire funding the mission, another a healthcare provider, the third will be selected at random through a sweepstakes, and the last seat will go to the winner of a competition. In the new space age, you can buy a ticket to orbit. No need to have been a fighter pilot in the military or to compete against thousands of other overachievers for a coveted spot in NASA's astronaut corps. In fact, for this mission, the first comprised entirely of private citizens. Do you see it? Private citizens, as opposed to human beings who are owned by their government. NASA is a little more than a bystander. It does not own or operate the rocket that will blast the astronauts into space or the capsule they will live in for the few days they are scheduled to circle the Earth every 90 minutes. NASA has no say in selecting the astronauts and will not train or outfit them. That will be all done by Elon Musk's SpaceX. So, what is NASA doing now? They a lot less. NASA has not, at least of the whole, NASA has not ceded all ground. It still leads major exploration science programs that no company could match. I mean, they spend money on shit that doesn't bring value in a way that would justify the expenditures. This is like the most important area of human exploration, and we have huge misallocations of resources because it's government controlling that, and that's really sad. But it's still doing things like the Mars landing, right? And that kind of scientific exploration might be what the space industry lets government do, while the more immediately, like, if you can convince, I mean, think about this. If you're in an industry, I mean, let's take any industry, right? Let me see if I can think of one. Okay, as a construction, totally unrelated to but unrelated to space exploration. If in the construction industry they could convince government that development of more efficient construction techniques was essential to the public interest, well, they don't have to pay for R&D anymore. They can just make more money because that cost of their business has now been transferred to the taxpayer. Similarly with space exploration, yes, I love it. I love all of this. I love the Mars landing. I love the telescopes. I love understanding far off galaxies. But I don't think my love justifies government stealing from people in order to pay for it. And what that represents is an externalization of the space industry's costs of R&D being passed on to the taxpayer. And that is a tragedy that fortunately seems to be coming to an end. All right, now to alien life, the war zone. American Airlines confirms encounter with unidentified cylindrical object over New Mexico. The radio transmission regarding a rogue cylindrical-shaped object traveling at high speed near the Airbus A320 is authentic. Less than 48 hours after our initial reporting on an outright strange incident involving American Airlines Flight 2292 as it flew at 36,000 feet over the northeastern corner of New Mexico on February 21st, we have confirmation that the event in question did indeed occur, and it is being investigated by the FBI. The incident involved pilots of the Airbus A320 being buzzed by an unidentified cylindrical-shaped object moving at high speed, which resulted in them querying the FAA's Albuquerque Air Route Traffic Control Center. Quote, do you have any targets up here? We just had something go right over the top of us. I hate to say this, but it looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast right over the top of us. Did you accidentally shoot a missile next to an airplane? I would bet it's more likely that than an alien, but it is still, as of right now, an unidentified flying object. The Sun has a related headline, Close Encounter UFO Mystery Deepens as American Airlines doesn't deny spotting and says, talk to the FBI. Yeah, we don't want to, and the FAA, next headline from the War Zone, has released a statement on airliners' encounter with unidentified objects over New Mexico. And it goes, let's see, after 3 days of waiting, let's see, what is the FAA that has released a short statement which reads, quote, a pilot reported seeing an object over New Mexico shortly after noon local time on Sunday, February 21, 2021. FAA air traffic controllers did not see any object in the area on their radar scopes. Just, yeah, and it's not a lie if FAA air traffic controllers didn't see it, but no, we don't know anything about it. That might be a lie because they probably do. And Fox News also with a related headline, FBI aware of American Airlines possible UFO spotting, stops short of confirming investigation. Yeah, so there might not be an investigation because they know what happened. If it was, it was actually a cruise missile that, whoops, we didn't mean to send it past there, or a test flight, someone getting accidentally buzzing them. All right, now real quick, we have some fun understanding nature stories in our last block today. Smithsonian Magazine, SmithsonianMag.com, did an ancient magnetic field reversal cause chaos for life on Earth 42,000 years ago? Yeah, that's how deep we're probing history. The study links new detailed data about Earth's atmosphere to a series of unfortunate events that occurred around the same time. Now, I'm not going to get too much into the story because we're over time, but there's a lot of fun stuff here in understanding the, as the first sentence says, humans today take Earth's magnetic North Pole for granted, but over the course of the planet's history, the direction of its magnetic field has shifted, even flipping and doing all sorts of crazy stuff at times. And you might think, well, it's just magnetic field? Well, yeah, it's pretty fucking important. And if you want to understand it, check out the link. Again, exclusively at t.me/Adam versus the Man. Futurism.com. And scientists start work on simulation of entire Earth, get ready for a digital twin of the entire planet. I'm not sure how I feel about this, really, because it's very cool that we're able to do this kind of simulation, and we have the computing power, but it's being justified as a scientific means of promoting global warming propaganda policy. And I don't know about that. And this is sort of a very politicized science at this point, but at least good news, cool that we can do it. All right. Also from Smithsonian Mag, rare yellow penguin photographed for the first time. The Antarctic bird has leucism, meaning its feathers do not contain melanin needed to produce black pigment. But it looks like its eyes and its beak may also be affected by this leucin. It's not albinism, but yeah, as let's see, this is in December 2019, photographer Yves Adams embarked on a 2-month photography expedition in South Georgia, but he didn't have to wait long to capture the shot of a lifetime. While unpacking safety equipment, Adams spotted penguins swimming towards the shore and grabbed his camera. One of the birds looked really strange. When I looked closer, it was yellow. We all went crazy when we realized we dropped all the safety equipment and grabbed our cameras. And this is South Georgia Island. Yeah, not South Georgia. This is in the South Sandwich Islands, different Georgia. But yeah, really cool picture if you want to get, oh my God, just beautiful, beautiful animal. And then once in a lifetime sighting, incredibly rare half male, half female cardinal spotted in California. This is from Pittsburgh CBS Local. And it's just a longtime bird watcher who saw a cardinal that is literally half male and half female, at least by appearance, split down the middle by the feathers. Cool shot there too as well. All right, next, Associated Press. I told you we were going to have volcanoes. Mount Etna's latest eruptions awe even those who study volcanoes. Mount Etna, Europe's most active volcano, has awed even seasoned volcanologists in recent days with spectacular spurts of lava lighting up the Sicilian sky each night. This sounds like a really bad formula for a pickup line. Can you imagine a guy at a bar? Well, if you must know what I do, I am a seasoned volcanologist, and I can produce spectacular spurts and light up the sky whenever necessary. I'll stop. The latest eruption overnight petered out around 0900 GMT Tuesday, according to Italy's National Institute for Geophysics and Volcanology. For over a week, Etna has been belching lava, ash, and volcanic rocks on a regular basis. The nearby Catania airport closed temporarily, and residents of the town of Federa said it appeared one day last week as if it were raining rocks as a thick blanket of ash covered the town. Now, you didn't think about this, but one of the fun things about uploading our brains into robots that are fireproof is we can dance around volcanoes. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff that comes with this you didn't even imagine, right? Speaking of things you could have never possibly imagined, we're going to end today's show with a dick pic. That's right, livescience.com, rare Roman era phallus carving found in UK. And yeah, fun picture here. Archaeologists in the United Kingdom have unearthed the stone carving of a giant phallus, which might have served as a good luck charm at the time it was chiseled 2,000 years ago. Well, it would have been better luck if it was chiseled outright instead of onto a wall, because how are you going to pick this thing up and use it when it's attached to a wall like that? The Roman-era millstone, a stone used for grinding grain such as wheat, was broken when an excavation team initially discovered it and other millstones during field work in 2017 and 18 ahead of a construction project on the A14 road, according to Oxford Archaeology, a private archaeological company in the UK. Yeah, that's a thing now too. Another little bit of good news buried in the story. Only recently, once archaeologists studied the broken millstone, did they realize it sported phallic imagery. And it's kind of a blurry dick pic, perhaps open to interpretation, but they seem very confident that this is a penis. And with that big smile on the screen, let's go back to your comments and wrap up the show. Jim, you having fun today, brother? Is it pointing towards the men's?
That was hilarious. That was probably from the first picture. Let me see if I go back to it. That was I already unshared it. Never mind. Whatever. I'm a little slow today. You know me. I'm no CJ, but I feel like we got through it. I got most of the stuff up there, and it was a pretty good show. It was a good mix of technology and positive yada yada.
Well, then let's say congratulations to Matt Moriarty for winning membership in the Anna versus the Man Producers Club today. Matt, if you're still watching, send Jim an email, jim@thefreedomline.com, or I'll text you later. We'll get you plugged in if you want to join us. Thank you so much for that call. That was fun. It was really beautiful. And a lot of great comments, a lot of positivity today. Anything critical in the comments before you tell everybody what Matt's won? And then we do the mystery.
Yeah, I honestly I didn't even have time to go through the comments. I clicked on the few I clicked on while you guys were on your interviews and everything. But that last block, you were going so fast, I haven't seen comments in the last few. Earlier was comment time, but basically what Matthew won today was access into the Producers Club, the private Producers Club. If you don't feel like trying to call in and give as awesome of a call as Matthew did today, he said AKA Two Hats, by the way. I don't know if that's his social media handle. He didn't mention it. But his name, as was written, that he typed in for us on StreamYard was Matthew or Two Hats. So, anyways, if you don't want to wait and be awesome like him and win a contest, then you can just buy your way in by visiting adamversustheman.com. Once you're there, you just scroll right at the top. Actually, there's a button that says Patreon. Everybody knows what Patreon is. Click on it. It brings you to Adam's Patreon. $1, $5, $10, or $50 a month. That's how you can support the show. $10 a month is what gets you access into the Producers Club, the private chat, all the links for you get all of the links in the public chat as well, but you get a little bit more discussion about it and private, I don't even know the word, private interest, interaction. That's what I was trying to think of with the Producers Club at $10 a month. So definitely check that out. After you're done with that, check out the shop that CJ's put together there. We got a lot of items: t-shirts, hats, towels, hip sacks, beanies. I need to get a new beanie because Falcor chewed a hole in the top of mine. So I'm going to get one of those ordered. There's a load more button that keeps popping up at the bottom. Make sure to click that so you can see all the other stuff that we have on the awesome shop. After you're done with that, check out our affiliate program, cigarfederation.com. They have an awesome selection. I shared the wrong screen. They have an awesome selection of cigars to choose from. I've tried some myself, and they're delicious, and they go down perfect. They smoke perfect. They're excellent cigars. The JSK Nugs were the one I tried. They have CBD infused with them. Definitely check those out. Man, this is hard to do by yourself. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm trying to find all the other, but I'm getting it done. So definitely check it out, cigarfederation.com, and use promo code Adam10, all caps, get 10% off your entire order, no matter what you get there. You can get the whipped cream flavors. Adam110 gets you 10% off your entire order. So definitely check that out. Lastly, why don't you tell them what they can find on Instagram when they go to Instagram at the Garden of Freedom? What are they going to see there? What have you been posting since I've been stuck here?
Yeah, well, I need you to come back and take more pictures of everything going on here because I get carried away with all these fun projects and forget. Today, I'm just stacking wood. I am loving this 16-inch electric chainsaw. Carrying it around with a generator is so much easier than an engine-powered chainsaw. We got Luke Wanky there sitting on the geodesic throne in Gardenia. It's at the Garden of Freedom on Instagram. And if anybody wants to come out here, this should be the last really cold week. It's funny when it's snow on the ground. I love it, and it's like you just get into this winter mentality. But now it's just cold at night and nice and cool for working during the day. But yeah, I'm getting out today, gonna get that blood flowing, get the circulation back to my toes, which are freezing right now. And then so today, to wrap up the show, good news in history for February 26, 30 years ago today, Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the World Wide Web, introduced the first useful web browser. It was released to a group of physicists, but soon it spread to geeks using computers around the world. Yes, and Tim Berners-Lee is someone you should know, as well as what he is working on for a new version of the internet where it's a lot more decentralized control of data. On this day, 1929, Grand Teton National Park was created. On this day, in 1953, Michael Bolton was born in Connecticut. On this day, in 1971, UN, the United Nations, proclaimed the vernal equinox as Earth Day, and since then, the Earth has been all better. On this day, in 1987, the Church of England voted for ordination of women priests, and since then, women's rights have been equal to men's, and it's been a beautiful, perfect. At the end of that when women became ordinated priests in the Church of England, that was it for them. On this day in 1990, free Nicaraguan elections toppled the Sandinistas. On this day in 1991, Tim Berners-Lee introduced the world's first web browser. On this day in 1991, Kuwait was liberated by 30 Gulf War allied countries after 208 days of Iraqi occupation. as Saddam Hussein withdrew his troops. And since then, we've had nothing but peace in the Middle East. On this day in 2004, the U.S. lifted a 23-year ban on travel to Libya. And since then, we've had freedom of movement across the world, and government borders have not been that which reduces global productivity by 50%. And on this day in 2005, Egypt's President Mubarak ordered multi-candidate elections to be legal. And with all that, I suppose, more importantly, it was 89 years ago today that Johnny Cash was born. And with that, well, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.